Dear friends, welcome to another episode of the Spokemaster. In this video, we will discuss how Poland wants to ensure its security in the new European geopolitical context created by Vladimir Putin. In 1919, Poland, soon after being reconstituted as a nation after 123 years of being partitioned among Prussia, Russia, and Austria, was attacked by Lenin's Communist Army, which aimed to reclaim territories that were once part of the Russian Empire. Thanks to the bravery, courage, and determination of the Poles, Lenin's powerful Soviet Russia was defeated, forcing Moscow's communists to recognize the country's borders. But Russia, resentful and vengeful, did not forget that defeat, and in 1939, the communist dictator Stalin attacked Poland again, this time allied with none other than Nazi Germany's Hitler. In September of that year, Nazi and Soviet communists joined hands in a joint attack against Poland, with the western half going to Hitler and the eastern half to his then ally, Stalin. Between September 1939 and June 1941, both Hitler and Stalin persecuted, murdered, and enslaved millions of Poles. From June 1941, Hitler conquered the entire area, destroying Poland as a nation and creating administrative departments controlled with an iron fist by the Nazi Party's bureaucratic and murderous machine. For years later, Poland, reduced to ruins, was conquered by Stalin, who continued the work begun by Hitler, persecuting, imprisoning, deporting, and executing anyone seen as an obstacle to the complete assimilation of Poland. For nearly 45 years, Russia treated Poland as a mere buffer state, existing only to absorb the brunt of any potential attack from the West. For 4.5 decades, the Polish people were oppressed and kept in poverty, with all the immense wealth produced in the country being sent entirely to Russia, which in return offered just enough crumbs to keep the Poles from starving and revolting against the Communist Party. But in the 1980s, Polish patience ran out, and the people, eager to regain freedom of thought and choice, began to rise against communist oppression, leading to increasingly larger protests and strikes, prompting Russia to impose martial law in Poland and intensify oppression and persecution. In 1989, with the Soviet Union approaching its collapse, Poland saw an opportunity to accelerate its push towards democracy, founding the Third Republic in December of that year, marking democracy's return after a 50-year hiatus. In the 1990s, with Russia bankrupt and staggering after the Soviet collapse, Poles knew that once Russia regained strength, it would threaten its neighbors again. Thus they sought to align with the West, joining NATO in 1999 and the European Union in 2004. In the 21st century, with Russia firmly under Vladimir Putin's control, Poland's predictions became reality. Russians invaded Georgia in 2008, annexing territories in the north, and in 2014, they invaded Ukraine, illegally annexing Crimea and starting a civil war in Donbass. These actions confirmed Poland's fears, leading to a deep process of modernization and expansion of its armed forces, which intensified further after Russia's large-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. That invasion radically changed the geopolitical context in Europe, leading countries once proud of their neutrality, like Sweden and Finland, to join NATO to avoid becoming the next victims of Putin's expansionist imperialism. Europe in 2023 is very different from the beginning of 2022, with all European countries clearly understanding that those not part of a strong military alliance or showing weakness will inevitably be pressured and attacked by Putin's war machine. Poland, which as mentioned, suffered 4 years under Nazism and 44 years under communism, does not want to be subjugated and occupied again, even though it's part of the world's largest military alliance, thus enjoying U.S. military coverage. Poland decided to bolster its defense on its own by signing large contracts and acquiring vast quantities of the world's most advanced systems. All these equipments were showcased in a grand military parade held this Tuesday, August 15th, in Warsaw. The list of military equipment acquired by Poland is extensive, so let's focus on the most notable ones. In terms of armored vehicles, the highlight is the South Korean K2 Black Panther, a 55-ton steel beast equipped with the most modern systems in the world for fire control, sensors, and exotic systems. with Poles buying 180 K2 for immediate delivery and an additional 820 to be produced locally from 2026. They also acquired 116 M1A1 Abrams tanks, the oldest version in operation of the famous U.S. tank, with another 28 in the M1A2 SPV2 version and 250 in the most modern A7V3 version, reinforcing the current Polish armored fleet, which includes 83 Leopard 2A4S, 105 in the 2A5 version, and 45 in the 2PL version, along with hundreds of T-72s and their PT-91 variant. On land, Poland also acquired 212 South Korean K9 self-propelled howitzers and 460 of the Polish-made K9PL version, 170 Polish-made self-propelled Crab howitzers, around 230 Soviet-era 2S1 howitzers, and 122 heavy M120 rack mortars, a local project. But the real highlight in Polish artillery is the M142 HIMARS multiple rocket launcher, which has been giving the Russians so much trouble. With less than 30 launchers, Ukrainians forced Russians to extend their supply lines by over 60 kilometers, pushing back all major supply depots and command and communication centers. Imagine what Poland, which acquired 506 HIMARS launchers, can do. Poles are also heavily investing in infantry combat vehicles, buying 2,100 Borsuk BWP vehicles armed with a 30mm automatic cannon and anti-tank missile launchers, and also purchasing 359 KTO Rosamac vehicles from Finland, an 8x8 also armed with a 30mm automatic cannon. If Russia continues this rate of losses in Ukraine for a few more months, once all these vehicles are operational, Poland will have more next-generation tanks than the entire Russian army. In the skies, the Polish army continues to invest heavily, acquiring 96 H-64 Apache attack helicopters. In the Air Force, Poles are phasing out their last MiG-29 jets, some of which have already been delivered to Ukraine, operating 48 F-16s, which will soon be reinforced by 32 fifth-generation stealth F-35As. For the light attack mission, Poles bought 48 Fa-50 jets from South Korea. These are the main military equipments Poland is acquiring and producing to deter Vladimir Putin's Russia and Alexander Lukashenko's Belarus from venturing into Eastern Europe